Money FM 89.3. The View on Money FM 89.3.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Money FM 89.3. I'm Rachel Kelly. Hello to everyone joining us on social media. It's good to be back with you again. We've taken a break of, what is it, Hongbin? 2 to 3 weeks? Okay, so it's good to be back on Facebook. I did leave the afternoon for a little bit. I went over to join the morning show. My goodness, I'm glad I'm not waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get into the studio for 4:30 anymore. It's good to be back with you at a more reasonable timing, I think. Sorry, Elliot. Okay, what have we got coming up on the show this next half hour, Hongbin?
Well, we have Benjamin Kheng, who will be joining us, and we have Gregory Van from Endowus to talk about investment trends.
That's right. So whether you know him from the band, the Sam Willows, or his comic sketches online, music may be his more familiar area of expertise. But how is he when it comes to money management? We're joined now by Benjamin Kheng and Gregory Van, who's the CEO of Endowus, to discuss investment trends and find out more about their investment styles. Greg and Benjamin, thanks so much for joining us today.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you with us. So, Benjamin, obviously we know that you now work with Endowus to discuss your investment and money management. We've seen your face everywhere along with the Endowus logo. So
I'm sorry about that.
So let's start off there. Perhaps you can tell us, how would you describe your investment style?
I shoot from the hip, man. I'm reckless and wild, and no, I'm not. No, absolutely not. I will admit, obviously, that I think it used to be a very foreign language to me, much through my young adulthood, and then also being, well, I would say financially illiterate, and then being afraid of being perceived as such as well, kind of alienated me to the whole concept very early on. So I am very risk averse from the beginning. But it's been great sitting with Greg and the Endowus team, who I told honestly at the start that meeting me was going to be basically them Eli fiving everything to me, like explaining like I'm five. And they were really extremely helpful in walking me through it, and I don't feel so dumb anymore. So yeah.
What would you say was that turning point? Because for many, it's quite intimidating, isn't it? When you start investing and start actually managing your money, because it's very easy to get caught up in the day-to-day when you're going out, you're eating, you're enjoying. Actually sitting down and making a plan can be quite a daunting task. So what was that moment when you thought, okay, I got to do something now?
I think, well, obviously, strangely enough, I grew up in a family of financial planners.
Oh my goodness!
and my dad as well, obviously, has been begging me to make moves for a long time. So the family side has been bugging. But I think also, a burgeoning desire to sort of provide for my family, to seek, protection for rainy days ahead, as well as just good foresight, and my wife was getting into it as well. I think overall it felt like a necessity, and not just looking at big satellite. I think Endowus has really helped me break it down very easily. But starting off kind of rudimentary first, sitting for rainy day before looking outside and venturing into bolder investments. Yeah.
So what was your first investment, Benjamin?
Yeah, my mental health. No, I would
a very
say,
important investment as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I think, to be very honest, it was nothing. I don't know if you could even consider it an investment. But okay, so like many other, I would say artists as well. It's hard to rely on grants or sponsorship money to make moves or create projects. And I didn't want to just wait for work to come into my lap. I wanted to create work that could eventually have capital upside, but also feed my career laterally and grow me as an artist and feed my soul. So I would say my personal investment at the start really was into starting creative projects, whether it was a company that I recently founded, which is a video production company, or kickstarting web series, music albums, video projects and the like. So for many years, it was basically sowing into those things with no immediate capital upside. But eventually these things did reap benefits. And I would say this is my first kind of non-serious,
Okay. Well, I
experience into
think
it.
any investment or anything can be seen as an investment of sorts, depending on how you view it. I mean, for example, a lunch or a business lunch could also be viewed as an investment, right? It's what kind of
Oh, I've
mileage you
invested
get
so
out of
much
it.
into those. Yeah.
So many business lunches. Okay, great.
Yes.
And Gregory, I'm interested to hear from you. Obviously, you're the CEO of Endowus. It's an investment platform that we're all familiar with. What was your first investment? When did you start investing?
So obviously, Ben and I clearly have very different interests.
You don't say.
I would say though that Ben is a really great student and really approaches investing from a place of humility. And it's been awesome working with him. As with all of our advocates, we're very clear to them that they need to really understand in Dallas and adopt what we are trying to do before we would actually bring them on to be an advocate of the brand. Because it is a different philosophy of investing from most of what we sort of are hit with all day. And it is a long-term solution. It's a sustainable solution to personal wealth management that we think more people have to adopt, but it has to come from within. So Ben, and other advocates aren't just doing it as a fly-by-night thing. It's really, we really want to help them. We really want them to understand and benefit from Endowus, not just in the short term, but in the very long term. My first investment, I think, like a lot
Yes,
of
I thought you were going to dodge the question there, Gregory. I'm glad you got there.
So obviously, like most people starting out, when I was a teenager, late teen, I thought I knew what the future would hold. So I thought, how hard can investing be? These stocks go up and down every day. I know what my friends are buying. I know what I'm using as a product. I'm just going to buy that kind of stuff. And my first investment ever was actually in Amazon after it had gone down a lot in a single day. So, when you look at, like, let's say Yahoo Finance, they show you like top 10 winners and losers every day. And they keep on showing that. They keep on flashing that to you on the screen. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and watch Yahoo Finance and wait for a company I know to show up in the top losers. And then I'm going to buy that. So I did that with Amazon. And then 3 days later, I sold it. And I thought I was a genius because I made like 7% in 3 days, which is
Wow.
extremely good. So I was like, oh my gosh, I've cracked the market. I figured it out.
I know how to do this now.
Exactly. So I started doing this like on a daily, actually a lot. If you look at like all the stuff about Robinhood, Moomoo, the different blogs, people trading ideas, this is exactly what they're going through as well. And then you keep on doing this and you get destroyed. I think I lost like 90% of my money in over the course of a few years of literally wasting so much time watching the market. It just like the effort was not paying off. So after that experience is when I sort of really got into the evidence and the scientific reasons and ways of investing, because I knew that this was not long-term sustainable. And finally, like I would just say that, and I think it's awesome that Ben's first investment is in his creativity, because ultimately wealth management and investing, not speculating, is meant to be a life enabler. It's not something we're supposed to spend all our time doing. We're supposed to set it up properly and hope that it enables our life, not controls our life. And that's really the place that we want to that's really the role we want to play in the lives of our clients.
And it's difficult, though, isn't it? Greg and Benjamin, when you're looking at having control, or when you want to plan long term in terms of your finances, especially if you're seeing the markets move up and down, it's very easy to get carried away. As you mentioned, the rise of the retail trader. So how do you then strike a balance, and what are some of the steps that people can make when it comes to managing their money in the early days to ensure that they have that kind of solid foundation? Gregory?
You broke up a little bit, but I think I got the gist
okay.
of
Yep.
I think I got the gist of the question.
Okay, so it's basically what can people do to ensure that they've got a solid
So
foundation? Yep. Okay,
yeah.
Gregory, can you hear
So
us?
I
Yes.
think learning learning and reading is actually really important. I think, unfortunately, people spend more time, I mean, I'm guilty too, people spend more time trying to figure out where to have dinner next Saturday than they do thinking about where to put or how to invest their hard-earned money. And, you know, I'll look up 6 restaurants because a bunch of them are full, and I'll be calling and researching and looking at reviews and everything. We should pay much more attention to to where we're parking our hard-earned money, our retirement money, like our CPF and SRS. So you can invest your CPF, SRS, and cash holistically on the Endows platform to really prepare for your future. I think you need to understand what risk means, right? What it means to be taking a certain amount of risk and making sure the investment makes sense so that you're compensated for that risk you're taking. I think so many times people are taking risks, trying to get returns, and they have absolutely no idea what the payoff will look like. So taking very sort of calculated and compensated risk that comes in the form of returns through strategies that you can stick through the markets, which will constantly fluctuate. We think there's tons of uncertainty now, but I can't think of a period where there wasn't a lot of uncertainty.
So just on the back of that, I've got to ask Benjamin, where do you go for your financial information now? And how much time do you spend watching the markets and watching your finances? More than you spend researching dinners?
Oh no, you're putting me on the spot.
Oh, no.
I go to that guy. Well, I mean, I don't know where he is on your screen. I go to that guy and the app. No, I mean, to be very honest, I do take responsibility. I know it's my own responsibility to seek out that information properly. I think right now, Endows has been a great first step into doing that. They've given me really solid advice, rudimentary advice as to just forecasting my finances for the next few decades before I make any crazy satellite investments or look for other things. But I will get there. I'll definitely leave that question to Greg to further expound on. Yeah.
Yeah, and what would you say, Benjamin, is the key lesson you've learned from all of these conversations that you've had with Endowus or just on your own financial journey?
Yeah.
What lesson would you want to share with any of our listeners if they're starting
Sure.
out their financial literacy journey?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, I don't think I can obviously relate to people who are further along in their investment journey, but for many like myself who, have struggled with, I guess, a stable income and, having to work with banks to secure like loans for housing and all that stuff. And it just seems like a very daunting hill to start on. And again, being born, in a family that wasn't completely well-to-do at the start and then kind of working its way up. And then also dealing with male ego and being afraid to ask questions. And being afraid to ask silly questions, I think, is the biggest thing. I think that was the biggest hurdle for me. So I think it's understanding, I would say at the start, understanding your money patterns, how you invest, how you spend, whether or not you tend to blow your bank on lavish dinners for, important people, or whether it's obeying the very easy 50-20-30 law of your, fixed liabilities and then investments and then whatever else you want to spend on. I think, and then lastly, it's just not being afraid to ask silly questions and just get started and making mistakes. I think those are the 3 things that really got me through this first few chapters. Yeah.
So, just following on from that, Greg, we've got recessionary clouds looming. Many people are possibly concerned about cash flow. How important is it still to have, say, a 3 month or a 6 month amount of cash in their bank account before they start to look at investing?
So there's investing at many levels of risk, including very, very low risk. And, FDs are super popular right now, but with an FD, it's a fixed deposit. You're actually locking up your money for a certain amount of time. There are fund investments that give you similar return to FDs with very, very low risk, where you can take the money out on a daily basis. That pool of capital, and we call it cash management, that pool of capital, we think should be about 6 months for the typical person. There is now more risk of job security, more risk of interest rates increasing. There's always the risk of something unexpected happening, maybe an accident, a health problem, etc. So we think that 6 months of expenses in a cash management investment is the right level to be prepared for.
Okay, and I know Hongbin had a question about portfolio breakup, the 60-40 strategy. Hongbin, go ahead.
Right, the 60-40 strategies collapse of 2022 is, the worst in roughly 100 years. So how should investors look to diversify and look to hedge their portfolios if they're not seasoned market or money managers?
It's an awesome question. 60-40 is 60% stocks and 40% fixed income. And this year, we've seen stocks and bonds, so fixed income, drop by double digits in most markets around the world. And this is very, very rare. Now, in a sense, interest rates have normalized. And now we're in a position where the 60-40 portfolio will perform, we think, much better. And the decoupling of the correlation between stocks and bonds, we're now set up to see going into the future. 60-40 by default is a diversified portfolio. It is much more diversified than what most people are holding. Like if you're holding single stocks here and there, that is a completely, in our view, a portfolio that will give you very random outcomes. You should be in a 60-40 portfolio if you want to be in 60-40 portfolio that can be diversified across all of the global markets. In the case of Endowus, our 60-40 flagship portfolio has over 15,000 securities in it. 15,000 securities across developed markets, emerging markets, government bonds, corporate bonds, everything. And diversification is really the only free lunch in finance. And with the power of technology, we can actually diversify and implement our investments in this very diversified basket like never before, at never before seen costs. And of course, costs go straight to your bottom line. So in talking about like the most important things for people getting started, I would say diversify, manage your cost, and don't be afraid to get started. There is always going to be uncertainty. And I think people are so obsessed with trying to pick that bottom point of the market. And I almost guarantee you, if you pick it, you just got lucky. It's like when we were growing up, we were playing like pin the nail on the donkey, that game, when you're blindfolded, and then you have to pin the tail on the donkey. It's that kind of thing. So what I would suggest for people to do is where obviously markets are lower than where they were at the start of the year. If I have $100, I would invest $20 maybe every 2 weeks to get into the market. Don't try and pin the tail on the donkey. You don't have to. You can pin smaller tails as we go through time, and you will get into the market and be invested. So that would be my advice.
Okay. Well, Gregory and Benjamin, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. It's absolutely flown by.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Have a great
you.
weekend.
Thank you. You too. We've been speaking with Benjamin Kheng and Gregory Van, CEO of Endowus, here on Money FM 89.3. We've come to the end of our Facebook Live for today. Hong Bin will be back with you, and she'll be speaking with the woke salary man at 3:15 on your radio. So tune in to Money FM 89.3. Up next, we've got the news.
Leading the